Right now, it basically just dead ends.
Yeah, they wouldn't have much yard either.
And
Where
there's,
is that?
if you go down High Ridge to Meadow Lake, where you get the fish,
Yeah, okay, that's right.
that's not a big cul-de-sac there.
It looks like one if you don't go down in there, but if you go down in there, it's just a road that kind of does.
It's a
it.
teardrop.
Yeah.
So that's a discussion, because the engineers have to know that, because if we don't say it, we're going to turn it into a cul-de-sac. And we'll pour $20,000 worth of concrete, where, whereas if the fire department says, we don't need that, then what we have to decide is, do we take those landowners and give them the cul-de-sac? You know what I mean? Like if there's 30 feet of yard, which is technically the cul-de-sac, we're not using it, why don't we just give it to you and stop the road where it stops now?
Yeah.
Those are kind of decisions we have to decide, right? If we don't need the grass and it looks like your yard, you got a tree in it, why don't we just give it to you? Or sell it to you for $1, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But that's a decision we have to come back and talk about. What are we going to do about the mailboxes on High Ridge? They're in the road. They're in the way. We're going to have to move them. We got to get around the mailboxes. That's going to be an issue we got to figure out what we're going to do with those mailboxes. Do we move the whole city up to here? We can expand the mailboxes behind here. There's room to put all those here. And basically the whole city would be here. The advantage is you have the driveway, you're off the street. But we're going to talk about that. But we have to know that answer before the engineers start. We got to figure that out. Okay. The entrance and Lakecrest. What are we going to do about Lakecrest right here? Lakecrest is probably going to get blown up when land plan comes in. Are we going to move our entrance? It makes no sense to put $250,000 worth of concrete going that way if the entrance is going that way. We're going to have to work on the thoroughfare plan to figure out where the roads are going before we tell the engineers what roads we're going to concrete. That make sense? So for instance, I'm just talking lots of issues here. One possibility is, if there's going to be a new entrance and a new entrance road that ties into here, you could say, we're going to start the concrete at Melody and go that way. And then when the new road comes in at the new entrance, have them keep going and do this part of High Ridge. And we'll just make a deal when that happens. But that shaves $300,000 off the cost of the project. We have to discuss, and I'm just throwing that out there as just an example of the kinds of things we need to think out of the box and look at some trade-offs. But we got to know that before we task the engineers. Because that's a money thing, right? So that's another example. The RCP, we're going to replace all of the drainage, all the drainage pipes under town. Daryl and I went through town and we marked them all. We're going to replace the pipes. Now, what are we going to do at Melody and Carey? You all saw my pictures from before? Lake Batchelder, across from your house. We have to blow that up. We can't have that water retained back all the way. We've got to fix that. We've got to figure out what we're going to do there. Utility improvements. This is one of the big things we did over here. We put in that new water line down Lakecrest. If we're going to put in utility improvements, we do it right before the road's going, because we can rip up every driveway, we can trench across the street, we can pretty much do anything we want with utility improvements. So for where are we going to put in our new well? Well, maybe we don't decide, but at the Woodcrest lot, then we got to lay a pipe under High Ridge no matter what. If we end up using it, great. If we don't, and we go somewhere else, that's okay too. But we got to know in advance where to put crossings. Because we can't bore under the concrete once it's in. Okay. So for instance, people have talked to me in the shores, are we going to run cable, fiber optic cable? Should we run it now? Even though there's no internet there, there's DSL, but I've already talked to AT&T and Sunlink about just going to town, put in fiber now. We'll let you trench anywhere you want, or we'll put it in. and then you just tie up here. But that's a decision we gotta, because once those new streets are in and every driveway has been rebuilt,
Yeah,
it's done. No one's gonna trench under 112 driveways to put in fiber optic cable. We'll never have high-speed internet in Shores. So the other issue that's unique, we did not have this on this side of town. Drive down drive down Stubb. See those big, nice, square edifices that people put next to the street? Those mailboxes where we don't have mail, they're destroyed. If they're within 5 feet of the road, they're gone. Now, legally, they're in our right-of-way. We can destroy anything we want. It's like putting a mailbox in the middle of a park. That's city property. But what do we do? What's the right thing to do? They have to go. You know, so do we say to those residents, you have a year to move it. If you leave it, we're going to destroy it. You know, do we say you can contract with the contractors? They'll pick it up and deposit it in the middle of your yard. I don't know what the right answer is, but that's a problem. They should have never built those next to the street. But they're there now. We inherited that problem.
Okay.
You can't bring the machine down the street.
Yeah.
It's wider than the street. Plus the street's only like 19 feet wide. See, the problem we had, you know, as we had over here, if a new house goes in, where do they stop the driveway? Where the street is. Well, where's the street? It's where it happens to be today. It's not 22 feet wide. So those mailboxes are a problem. The Stowe connector, what are we going to do on our empty lot? Probably leave it out. Wait till the developer comes through, you know, to tie into our, you know, that lot that we owned, that we sold. It doesn't make any sense to me to us to spend $80,000 concreting it to dead end in the woods.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy decision.
Yeah, so that's something that, you know, that's got to come up. One of the issues that we talked to the engineers about is an option that we can do, which is, there's something called it's called high set concrete. And what that means is, so when we're doing one side of the street, we excavate the whole side of the street, one side. It's gone. What that means is, for 3 days, you can't get in your driveway. You have to park on the other side of the street. And they pour the concrete, and it takes 3 days for it to cure. So you're parking across the street. And then later on, about a month later, they do that side, and you park on the new concrete. Because those guys can't get in there. One option, which we did for several handicapped people, is they have high set, which means it cures in like 6 hours. So for handicapped people, we tell them, go shopping, and they leave in the morning. And we quickly throw the mat out there, which is the mesh, the rebar. They quickly set it up. They pour the high set. And when they come back around 4 o'clock, they can actually drive across it. We did that for handicapped people. But another option is to have, for instance, people in the Shores that have $450,000 McLarens and Ferraris that they don't want to park on the other side of the street, is to give them an option and say, here's the cost. You know, for your driveway, if you want to pay X amount of money, you can drive across your driveway when you come home tonight. Otherwise, park your Ferrari on the other side of the street, because you ain't going, you're not going to go over the new concrete.
Call Uber for that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, so I mean, so again, but that's up to us to decide if that's something we want to offer. You know, because we never did that over here. We didn't know we could do it over here. I'm not saying do the whole, it's expensive. So we're not going to do the Shore or any other street like that. It'd be way expensive. But for a driveway, 15 feet wide by 12 feet. Anyway, so that's one thing. I'm not going to talk about financing and future tax rates other than to say, based on the numbers, if we couldn't finance it, this wouldn't be on the agenda. What will the tax rate have to be? We'll discuss that. Because we're going to have 2 loans out simultaneously. Now, What will the tax rate be? It'll be higher. Will it be as high as Little Elm or Oak Point? No. It'll still be below them. What will it be? Well, we'll talk about that as we move on, okay? But the tax rate will have to go up. Now, it'll be debt servicing, which means it goes off when the bonds go away. So we'll talk about financing again, as we go on, that's one of the things we're going to talk about. Lastly is something that I think we're going to have to do, which is we're going to have some new ordinances that specifically make it illegal to violate the construction signs. So we had problems on this side of town, not many, we had a couple, where people drove around barricades.
They
Like how
drive
the
on
new
the
roads
end.
is
Yeah, and they caused damage to the road. Well,
Um,
what's our recourse?
And that's bad, because in some cases, you literally have to tear it up and rebuild it if they,
So,
when it's not cured.
So over here, basically, we've got to enact new, we didn't think anybody would do that. But
not yet.
only a couple people did it, but it was just kind of like, look, I'm going home and, it's that way and I'm just going to go that way. It looks okay to me. And they drove through the wet concrete. So I think we have to have an ordinance that will, in so many words, say, look, you drive around that barricade, you're paying for that thing to be redone. And, so think twice, because I think there's some people on the shores that just might decide they're special and they're going to drive around the barricade. So I want to have that flexibility. So this is kind of one step about the concrete roads, just to give everybody there's a lot of decisions we got to make. We're not close right now to, hey, here's an ordinance, let's move forward. Because we got to work out a lot of these other ancillary items. Okay? So the one thing I will tell you would be something like, just to kind of get the idea is, if on January 1, I'm not saying, but it doesn't deal, if January 1 we got together and said, let's do it, tell the engineer, go, then it'd probably take until September before the designs were done, and they send the bidding out. It's about 10 months, September, October, before we could say, okay, Joe Blow Construction, you're the guy, start. And then it's probably going to take a year for them to finish. Okay. So that's kind of where we're at. So, even if we said start tomorrow, we're committed. It's like 2 years before this thing's done.
Yeah, it's 2 years, and then the existing bond we have expires in 5 years, is that correct?
5 years, right.
So we'd have 3 years of overlap.
Right, and the financing's not a problem. I mean,
We don't
Just-
start paying the bond until the project is complete,
no.
so that's
The
not the
moment they're
case.
sold.
No, well, so part of what I'm working out is that when you sell bonds, the construction crew is not allowed to start the job until you've sold the bonds, because you got to have money. So they won't show up until, that's why on the same night, when the engineers are here, the engineer will say, we've opened the bids, we've reviewed them, our recommendation is legally, you accept Shields Construction, they're the low bidder. And then we're legally bound. If we do anybody, it's got to be them. Or we could say we're not doing anybody. But one vote is, we accept the bid, we award the bid to Shields Construction. Next agenda item. We authorize the sale of $1.6 million in bonds. It's 1 minute later, and we say yes. And the two happen
At the same time.
at the same time.
It's part of the construction contract is they have to start within a certain time frame of the bid
Of
acceptance.
the bid.
There's so many days, and then there's penalties.
It's not like
Now-
they have 6 months to mobilize. It's
Right.
within the contract.
But then we would, our first
So-
payment of that bond
So,
happens.
within the bond, you have to make your first payment within 1 year of you selling the bonds.
Okay, so
So
we have 1 year.
we have 1 year to free ride. Now here's the catch. If you were going to, let's say, close on your house, and your payments were due on the 1st, you wouldn't close on the 30th. You'd close on the 2nd. So then you get So because we get all our tax money December and January, we want to sign the contract like in February. So our first payment isn't due until
Next February.
we get another year's worth of bond payment, we get another year's worth of property taxes, right? That's why I'm working out the calendar, you know, based on the calendar, so there's no rush, like, hey, let's get this thing done by January. That's not the right month. So that's what I have to do, and I'll bring you guys a better calendar. That's part of what it is timing.
Yeah.
To make sure we get, you know, we'd like to have an additional round of property taxes under our belt before we have to start making a payment. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so and that's part of the nuances. I'm working with the financial advisors on how we get that calendar right. Okay. But you know, part of what we'll talk about, the longer we wait, the higher the interest rates go. And that's part of the trade-offs we're going to have to work out.
And the higher the construction costs, you know,
Oh, nice.
materials,
Yes.
concrete, has been going up every single year.
Exactly.
The
So,
engineer said last night significantly, right?
yeah, so, okay, so again, high level, we'll start hashing out some of these things as we go. Just keep an open mind, and you know, we have months to go before we, you know, this is not something I'm going to pull off. I'm going to hand you a, let's vote on roads tomorrow thing, okay? All right, thank you very much. Okay, sewer system. All right, so one of the things I want to talk about is some of the issues we're having with water and sewer. So here's your lesson on sewer lines. So here's one of the problems we're having. So this is the shores, obviously. So we have a lift station right here. This is the Cary lift station. We have the Stone lift station, otherwise known as the Bermuda Triangle of lift stations. This thing is brutal. And then we have the High Ridge lift station right here. Those are the three lift stations that feed up to the wastewater plant right here. Okay. And when they did the design for the shores, unfortunately, the council did 999 things right when they did the shores. They made a few mistakes when the shores was built. One of the mistakes was, so this is the way the sewer lines run. So the green lines, these green lines all flow by gravity to this High Ridge lift station. They go to here. This lift station sends it to the sewer plant. It's a force main. Just automatically ships it up there. From right here, if you go to Dave Getka's old house, there's 2 manholes in his front yard. Because one side of his yard goes this way by gravity, the rest of his yard, the sewer line, there's a manhole there. All of this purple from here down, and the end of Cary, that's where Dan lives, all of this gravity feeds down to the Cary lift station, right across from Serena's house. Everything collects here. Now where does this go? This gets pumped under force to the Stowe lift station. It comes here. This lift station gets all of this gravity feeds this way. From my house it gravity feeds. From here it gravity feeds. So all of that goes to this lift station. In addition to all of this. Then this goes up to here, and then it goes into High Ridge. Here's the problem. This has 3-phase power. This has a 15 horsepower pump. This thing can haul the mail. We never have a problem with that thing. That can handle anything. This stuff is single phase. So it's like you got 110. You can only put small motors in. So we have a 3 horsepower motor here which can handle this. It handles this. When it gets to here, the biggest motor you can put in is only 5 horsepower. It can't handle it. That's why it keeps malfunctioning. That's why the lights keep coming on. We keep burning them up. It cannot handle the flow. Look at everything that it's getting. And we're getting more new houses that are surprisingly not small. So that's why we keep trying to fix this. We've replaced the controls, we've replaced the floats, we've put new contacts in, but at the end of the day, it's an engineering malfunction.
So I don't guess it's as simple as getting 3-phase power run to it.
In order to get 3-phase there, it's, you know, probably, what, $500,000?
No, okay.
Because remember, all the utilities are buried. So,
Can you do multiple pumps with one-phase power? Or is that possible?
Not really, because it's all, so what happens here, the lift station's only so big, and it just doesn't, there's too much power draw. It can only draw enough power to run. It's strange when the two of them are running in a heavy rain, when both are running. I mean, I think you guys might have seen, a lot of times I'm out there, because one of them will trip off, and we're only running one pump. That's like in the mayor's letter I told you, in the heavy rains, it can't keep up. And literally just I have to go out there and manually turn the pumps on because they're overriding and shutting off. So, here's a solution. There's a solution to this. So if you could go to the next slide. Here's a different solution, okay? So one of the things, I'm sorry, this is explaining the 3 lifts. That's 3, that's 5, that's 15. So everything goes through here. Obviously all of this gravity feeds, and it never has a problem because it's got huge motors. And when I say motor, there's 2 of everything in there. Okay, so let's leave that up for a second, Cliff. I'm sorry, leave that. All right, so here's one solution. So here's the solution. From here, this goes down like it is now. This goes down to here. Now, the solution is that where all of this, so this comes into here, and remember from about here, this goes in. So Clay, could you go back to the one above it? Here's a solution that we came up with, potentially. See the purple? All the stuff that goes here? What they should have done, the engineering, is take this lift station that it pumps to here, send it to here. Move it up to here, and then let it gravity feed around the horn. So all of the purple doesn't go down here. Think of it this way. If the motors can't handle the flow, you either increase the motors or decrease the flow. There's only there are only 2 options.
So
You
is
can't-
that lift station gonna go and get this front yard?
No. So what you can do is, this lift station right now, what it does is, there's a force main. It's a 3-inch pipe that forces, under pressure, it pressurizes the waste when it's full down to this point. All you do is turn around and run the pipe this way. Get it to right there.
If you're gonna tear up the roads,
If you're going to tear up the roads and run down the driveways, you just run this little 3-inch pipe up to that point, and all the purple now, all this flow, never goes here.
And the sewer's on the right side of the street, so it's actually really easy.
It's an easy, if we're tearing stuff up. This is an example of one thing, you got to think out of the box when we're talking about the roads. Now, we could do this tomorrow. We'd have to bore under 6 driveways. We would just bore under the driveway. We wouldn't touch the driveway, we just bore under. Okay? So, I could come to you and say, here's the cost, you want to take this on tomorrow. We could say, let's wait, but that's the fix for this. So we are not going to spend any more money on this lift station. Trying to, because like I said, if you're overflowing, reduce the flow, or fix the motors. The power problem says we can't put in any more motors. Okay? But I think that should have been the original design. That should have been the original design. It's the same distance. I don't know why they did that.
So when did you or realize that this would be a permanent fix instead of all this money we've been spending on this lift station?
Well, the thing, what we tried to do is, the thing that kind of brought it to bear was that we had insurance paid, so we had a problem with the motors. We got an insurance check that paid for it. And once insurance paid for it, we started looking at it and said, look, putting in new motors, which insurance paid for, is fine, but you're not getting at the root cause. And the root cause is that it's a volume problem.
I think to answer your question, Liz, it's just as simple, you can't have the second idea first. We've been trying to fix this, and then all of a sudden somebody has an epiphany, it's like, oh, yeah.
I mean, again, part of what we do, right, is sometimes fix design problems that we inherit.
Right.
We have to do with the sewer plant.
But it's also, it's not
Well, I was
practical.
trying to figure out, was it is it that does our
Sam,
plumbing?
Sam.
Sam, was it Sam that, I'm just trying to figure out all this time and,
Well, the thing that changed is that if we're serious about doing the roads and it's actually kind of coming up in the near future, that's the time to do it. It's not cost effective to go bore under all those driveways or tear off driveways and put them back. So that's the new thing that it came up. So,
Yeah, I mean, it is, I don't want to say that, you know, we've been, if, that's what we have. So like if that light out there broke, what would we do? We fixed the light. It's a different thing to say, let's go back and rethink. That light's been there for as long as you and I have been in the city. It's always been there. You know, should we rip it out? Well, when Sam and I meet every week, obviously, when we start thinking about the roads, we start really thinking out of the box, you know, like street lights, like, you know, should we lay conduit in the intersection so, to get the power? Maybe there's going to be more lights there, and so, because we're not going to be boring under the streets too much. Boring is okay. I don't like going through the base. Because we just compacted all that and made it perfectly,
it's expensive too.
you know, and it's kind of like, you can do it, but it's not optimal. I mean, it's better than cutting a hole in the concrete, but you want to do it as little as possible. So we could do that. If that lift station kept malfunctioning and waste was going up in Charlie Coleman's house, and it was happening chronically, I'd be bringing to you, okay, this is what we're going to do.
I thought there was a time frame where there was like, maybe I'm wrong.
So,
Sometime last year, it was like constant, wasn't it?
it was, but we've upgraded some of the controls in it too.
Oh, okay.
And so that's not wasted money. That's actually always, that needs to happen.
That,
Yeah. And we've reached the point now where when that lift station fails, it doesn't come up in anybody's house. What happens is the people that are nearby, their check valve's closed. So they can't get out. They're not getting anybody else's, but their own, after, you know, a day, it backs up. You know, it doesn't, anyway, that's the issue. But it's really being driven by, you know, if you look at it right now, it's two things. It's the roads and the empty lots are being built on. We're not getting any less. And they're not small houses. The problem's only going to get worse. But I also want to let everybody go, and I'll stop after this, but this is an example of thinking a way ahead on the roads. Is trying to, and nothing's out of bounds here.
Yeah, anything we can take advantage of while it's all tore up.
Well, it's all
We have
tore up.
construction
This is-
people here and all.
This is it. Anyway, all right, thank you.
Mark, just a quick question.
Yeah.
Where the Stowe lift station is,
Yeah,
they're building on that particular lot, right?
they're building, yes, right there.
So if that thing malfunctions, does that home will it be impacted in any way, shape, or form?
It shouldn't, because they're going to be at 540.
Okay.
They're going to build up.
Okay.
If everybody knows where that lot is,
And they'll have the same check valve system Charlie has, I'm sure.
if you want to build next to the lift station on an acre lot, if you choose to build 10 feet away from the lift station,
No, they won't build there.
I can't help you.
They got lots of room.
They're building right next
They
to the
are
lift
building
station.
right there.
Yes, they're
Yes.
right next to it.
Oh, they are?
Yes,
Yeah.
they've chosen to build right next to the lift station.
They went for the road view, not the lake view.
Yeah, they're not aimed at the lake, they're looking at the street.
Okay, just curious.
Hey,
Anyway, different story. All right, the other thing that was here, let's see, lift stations. Okay, all right, so that is, so the other thing I want to point out is on the water side, we looked at our steel tank. So we went back into our steel tank, we had a few small leaks, and we looked at the steel tank, and we drained it. When we went in and looked at the steel tank, the issue was that we really should re-epoxy it, the inside of the tank. It's a steel tank, we bolted back together again, a few small leaks. The problem with doing it is a galvanized tank, so what we're going to do instead of going back in and re-epoxying, we're going to put a liner in. So most water tanks have a liner, just like a pool liner. It's a polyvinyl liner that's inside like a giant bag. So we're in the process of doing that. That'll probably run about $4,000. But that will then seal the tank. There won't be any leaks. And you know, we could let it leak. It was leaking a little bit, not any of the seams, just leaking slightly out of the bottom. But fairly normal. I talked to Patterson about it. When you take a tank apart and put it back together again, all new bolts, all new gaskets, all new everything, it's different than the way it was originally before it got taken apart. There's going to be some minor leaks. And so the prudent thing to do is just go ahead and put a liner in. That should be completed shortly. There was a question last meeting about pulling the wells, about dropping the wells. Today, most of you haven't seen because the gate was closed. Today we got several loads of road base. So we applied the base in the yard over there, so that when the trucks come in, there's all new road base there. So it's a stable platform for them, and that way they can come in now, rather than waiting for the rain and everything to dry out. So we have a very stable now base. I've instructed us that starting at Thanksgiving, the window's open. So we're going to let the road base, all this base we added, settle and dry in. And I've instructed starting on Thanksgiving, that's the period. Get the well drillers in here, and let's drop those wells. Okay, so the cost is going to be around $5,000. If we had to pull the well, so real quick, the well's 1,200 feet deep. The motor's at the bottom. So if we had to pull the motor, then had to pull 1,200 feet of pipe out of the ground, unscrew it, stack it.
20 feet at a time.
That's like a $60,000 adventure. What we're doing is taking the pipe that's sticking at the top, and we're screwing 20 feet onto that and just letting it go. That's why it's only like $5,000. So pulling a well is much different than dropping a well. I think we spent $4,000 when we did it the last time. So I talked to Madewell, he confirmed to me it would be in the $5,000 range. Of course, it's more depending upon how far you can drop it, which is good news. I'll pay more. But somebody had asked, I know it was you, Clint, kind of ballpark number, what that would be. And that's that number. Okay, number 7. 7 is discussion of municipal court of record. I think that's got your name on it, Linda. Did I skip one? I'm just looking at
No,
I forgot.
that's right.
Okay.
So currently, right now, we have a municipal court. There's a difference between having a municipal court and a municipal court of record. A municipal court of record has more authority to retain cases. And the reason that this came up, the reason that y'all are potentially considering making this change, is because for the first time in 12 years, we had a case that was appealed to the county. Prior to this case, prior to me being here, I can tell historically there were a lot of cases